Hello, Supervisor Shanley?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand that they're still trying to locate Mr. Shepard, but since we do have a quorum of the board, let's go ahead and, as chair, go ahead and call this board meeting to order at this time, sir.
Okay.
And then it's a one-item agenda, and so let's go ahead and take it on at this time. I don't know if there's a need for an executive session. Mr. Wengert, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
If you can go ahead and start us into this agenda that we have.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Supervisor Shamley, I believe we have Marlita on the phone as well. Anyway, the item reads like this. It says, following a possible executive session for legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, a possible discussion or action relating to the county budget reconciliations and questions with respect to the Treasurer's Office. Mr. Chairman, it'll be up to the board whether you want to go into executive session or not. We could have our discussion out of executive session, whatever the board would like to do.
Mr. Shamley, I think we had our executive session at the last board meeting. I'm not sure if we need to get back into it. I think all we're needing to see today from our treasurer is a timeline as to when the reconciliation can be had. And I think the suggestion and recommendation is ASAP. And I believe that she's got a letter to the board on it stating 2 weeks. And given that, I don't know, we need an executive session, sir.
Chairman, I don't believe we do need an executive session. I think if we delve into the content of this letter and can ask some questions about why the time frame or what they've discovered since I made that motion last Tuesday, we should be just fine.
Okay. Mr. Wengert, do you have that letter?
Yes, sir, I have it here in front of me.
And maybe you can share it with the board.
Okay, this was delivered by 11 o'clock yesterday morning, as the treasurer was directed to do. Basically, in her letter, it's about a page and a quarter long. It, as far as when the timeline to complete it, it says here it would be done in 2 weeks. I'm just trying to find where it says that. I know it says it here
Second
somewhere.
paragraph.
Second paragraph. Okay, yeah, it says, in response to the question of the board, the Apache County Treasurer's Office will, within the next 2 weeks, by April 10th, 2017, complete their portion of the audit for the fiscal year 2014-2015. It says the auditors for the county are still in progress of completing portions of the audit with our Finance Department and County Treasurer's Office this week. So that's the timeline that has been presented to the board, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Shamley, what are your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from Ms. Begay, and because they have been working so closely with Mr. Patterson as well, I'd like to hear from both of them because I think that's what will give us our next step, which might be more questions.
Okay. Okay, given that, Ms. Begay, our treasurer, or
Supervisor Shepard? Well, I'm going to ask the chairman to pause and we'll call you back on our phone, okay? That's how we can tie you into the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I think they're linking up some people right now, so.
Okay, we'll call you right back.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
this is Beth. I'm going to take you off speakerphone and connect to Mr. Shepard.
Okay.
Marlita, are you still there? Okay, all right. I'll connect to Mr. Shepard. Mr. Shepherd? Hi, this is Beth. I'm going to place you on speakerphone.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we have Mr. Shepherd on now.
Okay.
Are you there, Mr. Shepherd?
Supervisor Shepherd, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, well, welcome to the meeting, sir, and we've started already, but I'm glad you're here with us, and what we're doing is we've opened the meeting, and then we've gone over sort of what our expectations were from the last meeting that we had, where instructions were given.
Okay.
And there, Ms. Marlita Begay, the treasurer, I forwarded a memo to the board, and that was written right into the record.
Okay.
Where Ms. Begay is proposing to get everything all wrapped up in a couple of weeks by April 10. So that's kind of where we are. And now Mr. Shamley is asking to have Ms. Marlita Begay come to the microphone and explain the letter and where they are and what we should be looking at.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Marlita Begay.
Good afternoon, Yat Ashanantai. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present on behalf of the Treasurers team. First of all, I was not aware of this meeting until earlier this morning. So, but I didn't get an apology email from Mr. Wingert that he did not notify me. So with that, but again, we're moving forward. So I just wanted to let the board know that we are $37,113.98 away from balancing, which is good news. And at the same time, we spoke with the auditor, Curtis, who indicated that they're going to go ahead and move forward with that amount since it's under $100,000. So I am pleased to announce that we are going to wrap up the audit. But please do understand that the audit is still happening. They're auditing other departments. They're not waiting on the treasurer's team. They are going to wrap up the audit this Friday. And I just gave the April 10th because last week I know you said ASAP, and then another person said 30 days, and I was kind of given that option when the timeline was going to be. But it sounded like you wanted it more like 24 hours or 72 hours. So with that, the audit is going to move forward. And the only other part that I mentioned in that letter that was forwarded to the board is we did contact the Auditor General in regards to what was discussed last week, if the ledger balance was at zero. And the answer is they did look at the amounts, but they did not reconcile. So there's a difference between reconciling accounts and just looking at the amount. So when I sent you the letter yesterday, I only attached what the Auditor General did, and that's just investment. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but the audit is going to move forward, and we are going to wrap up the reconciliation before April 10th. While probably the same time the auditors are done.
Okay. Well, that sounds really good. Before I get to the questions, Ms. Begay, let me go ahead and give Mr. Ryan Patterson, the mic first. And then, Mr. Patterson, can you go ahead and share with the board anything else besides what has been reported already?
Chairman, members of the board, no, we don't have anything further. The auditors look as though they are they're pleased with the $37,000. It's under the $100,000 that they had asked, they requested the treasurer be at, and are willing to move forward. So we're good with that.
Okay, Mr. Shamley or Mr. Shepherd, or are there any questions of either the Ms. Begay or Mr. Patterson?
Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I have a question. This is Shamley, sorry.
Oh, Mr. Shambley?
Well, first off, do you want me to ask David, who's sitting here, because I understand he has some materials too, or do I need to direct my questions to Ms. Begay? Because I don't think David has some handouts, but I don't know if you can see any of that.
Just go ahead and ask your question, Mr. Shambley, and I think either Ms. Begay or Mr. Romero can answer whatever question there is out there.
Okay. It's my understanding, Ms. Begay, that 2012 and 13 and 14 are all zeroed out, so we're most concerned about 15 at this point. So with that, and with unless I misunderstood when you spoke earlier, you said the audit team would be wrapped up like this Friday, I believe. So what exactly is the buffer for, and what plan per my motion last week do we have to get this done, in light of Mr. Romero sitting here with some handouts as well? Does that pertain to the plan? A. B, why the buffer period if we're very confident and that we're within a realm that the auditor said we can move forward?
Hey, Marlita?
Thank you, Honorable Shamley. Anytime there's when you're reconciling, there's always money that's moving forward. Either it's checks that are not being cashed, or, when you're balancing a checkbook, there's always unposted amounts. So in this case, we have more money. Last week it was $311,000, but now we have more money in a little bit over $37,000. So our plan to wrap this up is just what I put in my letter, is to go ahead and hire a full-time senior accountant, because what I had in the past was a part-time. So that's one of my corrective action plan. I think that's what you're alluding to. And you mentioned that the balance, the audit for 12, 13, and 14 was zero balance. That's all verbal, and I put that in my letter. Until such time I see it in writing and where the cutoff date was, that will give us an indication of where to begin. But as of February 2012, when the Auditor General gave us an opinion, it wasn't even the end of the year. So a lot of things might have happened from February 2012 to now. But still, I still stand by something in black and white for our records to show that all the fund accounts within the entire county of Apache was at zero balance. So when I spoke with the lady, Nicole, at the Auditor General, all she could provide was the investment portion, which I attached to the report yesterday. So, but the buffer, I did talk to Curtis. I said that the main goal here is, talking with the Board of Supervisors last week, is we do not want to hinder anything on behalf of the county. We want to make sure that we get these funding, and due to the Trump administration, we need all the money that we can. So we're just moving forward to wrap up this audit. So maybe in 2016, we will have a better reconciliation, less than $37,000. So hopefully that answers your question, Honorable Shamley.
Supervisor Shambley?
No, not really, Chairman. What I want to know is, if we're so hopeful, as she said, that the auditor is completing by this Friday. So what I'm trying to find out, for the sake of the public and all the people that create this money, whether it's over or under, is she going to be in here every day working with David, and it's going to be done Friday night because the auditors are done Friday, or next Monday, and why do we need this extra time?
Okay. Marlita?
Well, if it's done done Friday, then it's going to be done Friday. We're doing all the adjustments and everything, and we did get confirmation from the auditors that they're going to proceed with the $37,113.98. So as of today, he did confirm that they're going to wrap up the audit. On our part, this is just the treasurer's part. Now, the finance or other departments, if they're in a situation, then that we have to gear that towards them. So, but within our department, within the treasurer's team, we're good to go with the auditors. Now with Ryan's team, he can speak on his part himself.
Sure, and I can appreciate that. So you don't have any indication, though, that when you say you got to move with other teams, nobody said, well, now we're going to slow you down.
No, because right now the auditors said that they're auditing other departments like finance, and they really haven't gone to the treasurer until this week. So we're not really hindering anything because the audit's in process. But he did say that if we wrap up the audit Friday or Monday, then yes, we'll be waiting on the treasurer. But since we're done on our part, now we're just waiting for them to finish auditing and wrapping up everything and finalizing a final draft and giving us an opinion.
Okay. And a minute ago, ma'am, you said they come Friday or Monday, they would just be waiting for the treasurer. Did you mean finance? Because you're the treasurer.
Yeah, I'm just saying that when we spoke with him last week after the Board of Supervisors meeting, we spoke with Curtis. And I said, okay, Mr. Curtis, what amount do you want so you can move forward with the audit? To give us an opinion so other departments, other elected officials can apply for these grants. And that's when he told me, if you go 100,000 or below, we'll proceed. So we said, okay. So our goal was to be below 100,000, but today we are way below $100,000. We're at $37,000.
Sure.
And Ryan did confirm the same thing. So really, we met that goal. But I just put that 410 in there in case, as a buffer. And when you guys got out of the executive session, I think you mentioned 30 days, and then Honorable Shepherd mentioned ASAP. So I just kind of went in the middle to give myself and my team time. But as of today, we double-checked everything, and we're good to go on our part.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I guess I just got a couple more things. I don't have the recording of last week, but I highly doubt I said 30 days. But second, Mr. Romero has come here with some materials, and I don't know whether the other two board members can see them or have them. And I don't know how pertinent they are right now, but he did come with something prepared, and I'm curious to see what that is, but I don't know if you can even read it. Do you have a copy of it, Mr. Chairman?
No, I sure don't.
So can we ask him like what he put together? And then we may not take no action on it, Mr. Chairman, but he's put some kind of work together and he's here.
Okay, Mr. Romero?
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, and members of the board. Good afternoon. What I have handed over to Dow, Supervisor.
David, speak closer to the mic, or pull it out.
Can you guys hear me now?
Should have got Verizon.
There we go, that's a little bit better. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. What I've handed over to Delwyn, the county manager, and Mr. Shambly, the supervisor, is just the schedule of items and basically what we will be reporting out to the audit. What I have not handed over is the detailed information that has to do with these items that we are presenting to the auditors. And so this basically schedule is what makes up the $37,000 of understating towards the bank. And there's some detailed information in here. You will see at the bottom that there are some items that just, as of when I put this together, finalized this morning, items that we haven't posted. So we will be posting those items too. But our auditor will take it as is, even though we haven't posted it. The assumption is that we will make those postings to our ledger. And so that's all the report that I really have of what we're going to be submitting to the auditor. Now, just to kind of piggyback on what Marlita said, as far as the timeline, if I reviewed the video several times on Sunday night, and me and Marlita discussed this before we put the letter together, and we understand there's some urgency behind this because we don't want federal funding to be held up. We want every entity of the county to be able to respond and issue out grants and apply for those grants. We don't want to be the sole purpose of why the county is not receiving revenue. I think there's a lot of factors, and I think that we have delved into those in the past in the last board meeting. I think Marlita covered as far as what the Auditor General has explained to us on the phone pretty much in detail. I had the conversation with Ryan Patterson after I had talked to the Auditor General, and so Marlita is right to say that they did give an opinion of our bank balances and what we should have issued to the ledger as far as interest apportionment, and also around a $900 offset of what they assumed was unreconciled. But they never did a detailed reconciliation on fund balances. And so the fund balance that they reviewed the cash accounts against, there possibly could have been issues within that fund balance because the detailed information between basically how we would explain it is the ledger of the treasurer to the entities where there's a school district, fire department. There could have been some unreconciled items within there that the Auditor General just would have known about. They simply took cash balances on accounts and figured that against a fund balance of the county. And so, like I said, on the back side of that, the reconciliation within the funds, and it states it within that report that there was not a detailed monthly reconciliation being done by the Treasurer's Office during that period, which would lead us to believe that there potentially could have been some missed items within the period, and in any period that they weren't doing those monthly reconciliations and reviewing the bank statements to what the activity on the ledger. Now, back to the schedule here, there are a couple adjustments that we have made recently. Through the discovery within the last 2 weeks of us reviewing some more information that brings us a lot closer into the line with the bank, as well as work with the auditor after the board meeting last Tuesday to really figure out a plan of how we're going to move this audit forward. So what they've requested of us that last Tuesday, we have worked very hard to get that information from the entities that they requested it from, as well as a review of a certain period. And so we have done that. We have let the auditors know that we have brought that information, have received that information, reviewed the documents, and that we are ready to move forward with several transactions that bring us to the $37,000 being understated against the bank.
Okay.
What other questions?
Okay, Mr. Shambly?
No, that was it, Mr. Chairman. He had made the effort to get here and to have some handouts, so if it pertained to the situation, I wanted it, out so we could all entertain it. That's it for me.
Okay. Mr. Shepard, did you have any questions? Supervisor
Yes.
Shepard?
Yes, I did. I just trying to find my mute button. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Certainly, I do appreciate all the attention that has been brought to this, but at the same time, I know that we can go back as far as the last term 4 years ago that we've been struggling ever since with the new software and the transition. But again, I think the sooner we can get to the closest number we can, hopefully zero. But the reason why I'm bringing that is because right now we're past the deadline where we're supposed to be doing the following year's audit. And the sooner we can catch up to it, the sooner we can get back on track. Certainly there are some recommendations that have been provided as to what could possibly address some of the faults or the issues that are brought forth. But again, my main thing is just where does this put us right now currently with the auditors and also with the sheriff's office grant being put on hold for reimbursement and such. I think that's kind of one of the immediate actions that needs to be looked at based on what we've configured today. So that's one question. The other is I did hear a solid hard stop date of April 7th. Certainly we hold each accountable to that date and moving forward. And again, hopefully the numbers come down to zero, and that's my expectation. So we can take on these recommendations further on down the road when we talk about our fiscal budget coming up on how to address certain similar situations to address and keep things in compliance. That's my only thought and comments at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Mr. Marlita, relative to grants that's being pursued by the sheriff's office, this coming down to the 37,000+, that's not going to hinder any more any applications for grants. Is that my understanding?
What's going to hinder the grant is the audit not being completed. As long as the audit is completed, it shouldn't hinder any grant funding. And yes, our goal to Honorable Shepherd's request, our goal to zero is what we're aiming for. So hopefully next audit it will be zero. But like I said, there's always checks that move forward. There's always checks on warrants that are not cash that move forward. But, like I said, with this new system that's in place, that's what has generated this. It's more transparent. It's more accountable. So we are already working on the 2016 reconciliation. So moving forward, it should get easier and easier and easier. So that's all I have on my part.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, does that answer your questions regarding grants?
Yes, it does. The other alternative comment that I want to make is that it seems like there's a breakdown in communication. My understanding is that Treasurer's Office does all the reconciliation, unless I'm mistaken that somebody else does it. So, the responsibility is identified there, but it seems like there's some correlation that needs to happen between the finance office, and I asked Mr. Wingert as the county manager to streamline a lot of these processes so that we're not sitting here next year discussing this next audit and the numbers are off. So, it's unexpected that we're here talking about it, but I guess at the same time I'm saying let's not come to this point again.
I totally agree. Maybe we should do a review every quarter or something like that. Just a quick thought.
I agree.
That way, if there's any help that's needed by the treasurer or any other departments, in 3 months, the board is apprised and we take appropriate action to try to help out. It's just a thought. But otherwise, Mr. Wingert, there's a timeline put forward. Mr. Patterson, there's a timeline that has been put forward by Marlita, our treasurer. At this juncture, would that suffice?
Mr. Chairman, this is Delwin. Yes, we will be checking with the treasurer's office every day. I think in her letter, she gave us April 10th. So we will be checking, and I will be informing the board. If the board would like, we could have an item on the second meeting in April to have another report if you would like, or I can just check with them as we go. So whatever you'd like there. And also in the future, because we're behind on the 15 and the 16 audit, we will make sure that there's reports coming to the board on a very, I don't know how to put it, but we'll make sure that there's being reports given to the board so that we don't get a year and a half behind, or work with the treasurer, see what the issues are, so they don't get a year and a half behind, and we'll help the treasurer in their work as best we can. It is in the treasurer's office responsibility to do these audits, but Ryan and I will help them as best we can and put items on the agenda for them to report to the board if a problem like this occurs again in the future.
Okay, gentlemen, what are your wishes at this juncture?
Mr. Chairman?
Chair, this is Treasurer Begay.
Okay, go ahead, Suyo.
Oh, yeah, it's Che. I just wanted to reiterate what County Manager is saying. You know, it is very important that we do work as a team. And I think now's the opportunity for me that that the County Manager does honor the additional funding that I have been asking for the past 4 years to get an additional person to help in the Treasurer's office. And please also understand that, you know, when other departments do make errors, it's the Treasurer's office that has to pick up the pieces to get the county back into shape. A good example is the tax rate error. You know, it was an error that wasn't made by my team, but we had to go the extra mile, which we're still correcting today. And I do appreciate the Board of Supervisors giving me some temporaries to help. So there's a lot of factors that have played into this. So maybe in the future, if we're going to be making changes like banking transitions, you know, that makes a big impact on my office and the treasurer's team. And we only have a staff of full-time of 4 versus other counties. So I do appreciate the county manager saying that we're going to work as a team. So I really believe in that. So, yeah.
Okay, I think time and again, as a member of the board, I've always stressed teamwork. That's, to me, running a government, running any organization, if you're going to make accomplishments, and you've got to work as a team. You can't go wrong with teamwork. So that is very highly encouraged, you know, from my position. So given that, gentlemen, what are your wishes? I think the recommendation is put forward that timeline has been given as of April 10, and then I don't know if it can be wrapped up by Friday. Another report can be made at the next board meeting, which is April 4. I don't know if all will be all will be done by this Friday. If that's the case, it might be a good thing to just maybe give us another short synopsis of what has accomplished, what has been accomplished on April 4, the next board meeting. Otherwise, if not that, maybe we can get it back on the agenda for April 18. What are your wishes, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to for sure see it on the agenda for the 18th so that we can have a wrap-up and closure for the sake of all the public who've been watching this topic and even the departments that have felt that they're being impacted. They've reached out to me many, many times, department heads, elected officials, like the Sheriff's Department, an email. So I feel we'd be doing our due diligence by having it on the agenda so those folks can hear it, how it was ended.
Okay, so the recommendation is to get it up back on the agenda, for possible closure on April 18th. Is that my understanding, Mr. Shamley?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Shepherd?
That's fine, I concur.
Okay, well then, given that, maybe Marlita, see, maybe you can go ahead and get ready for that. Is to give us another report with your recommendations or whatever, given what was discussed, for April 18th, the second board meeting in April, and hopefully at that time we'll bring all of this to a closure.
Okay. Yeah, Secretary. Thank you.
Question you, Mr. Wengert. Any last words?
The only thing I'd say, Mr. Chairman, is that it is the treasurer's responsibility to do the audit. We will work with her as best we can. As far as funding new positions, any of those will come before the board. We will provide information as to how other treasurer's departments in the small counties, the number of people that they have. So we will provide that to the board to help make the decision. But I know she wants to go from a full-time or part-time part-time accountant to a full-time. That has an impact on her budget. We will bring that back to the board and show comparisons to other treasurer's departments to make sure that we're somewhat in line with what everybody else does. But it's our desire and our commitment to work as a team to help her complete these audits. But in the end, it's the treasurer's responsibility to do the audits. But the finance department and I will do whatever we can to help.
Okay, I don't know if we need to take any action before closure. If there's no action, I guess the chair will go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn this board meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Wengert?
we have the reporter from the White Mountain Independent that would like to address the board.
I'm not sure what about.
I have some questions about the audit process that's been discussed today that I'd just like for clarification.
Mr. Chairman, we could probably answer those questions after the meeting.
That's what I'm thinking, so. So the treasurer's right. The treasurer and Mr. Romero is there, so
Well,
you can actually ask the questions, afterwards.
and maybe, Mr. Chairman, I don't know, I don't know if you weren't aware, but Ms. Begay's on the phone too, so I'm just letting you know that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, motion, Shepherd.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous that we do that. So with that, the Board of